Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sligo Show. Today we have a very special guest. It's normally very much Sligo linked, but this man is well loved and well accustomed to coming down these parts of the world. Mr. Alan Clarke, you are here to tell us all about your wonderful new book. Big news coming soon. You're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And you just told me that you're nervous.
I actually am nervous because you've got notes and a fancy jacket and cameras
and a pen.
Yeah, the last time I was in this studio now, it was very much...
Well, you were with two of those, yeah, those
no
boyos. They're not the same. Well, I mean, your book is out and I contacted you a couple of weeks ago. I said, look, I'd love to have you on and do a chat. I mean, we've met a couple of times through the comedy festival and different things, and I was really intrigued to read the book, and then I've never interviewed someone, go through the whole book, proper late show style.
Right.
The book is excellent. Obviously, I'm not going to not say it, but it actually is excellent.
Thank you.
It's a great story of a West of Ireland man and the brilliant normal stories of when you were young, right up to now what you've become and what you've done, which is an amazing journey. And some of there's ups and downs and ins and outs and great insights to some of the craziest business moments of your life, which we'll maybe get into a bit later on.
Great.
So for someone that hasn't ever known you or met you, how would you describe yourself to someone?
Oh, this is difficult. I just tell people I'm a podcaster.
Okay, and you just keep it at that?
I do, yeah, because when you get into the whole... I don't really regard myself as an influencer or a traditional influencer.
Kind of a dirty word, is it, to some people?
Yeah, it can annoy some people. I don't really get into the whole advertising thing. I maybe do one a month or one every 2 months. Yeah. And that would be literally just to try and pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
Pay the rent, keep the lights on. I could be doing them every day of the week, but I try not to. And I think that it has paid off because I have a really engaged audience, and they're really supportive. And it's kind of like a community. And I think if I turned my page into an ad every day of the week, I feel like I'd lose the community.
It's the authenticity of it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As we were saying before, and I mightn't be your regular demographic, 44-year-old male in the West of Ireland, but like, I do find myself delving into that first clip, and then you go, oh, let's see what happened next. Like, so you do just tell the story of some of the normal things and then fun things that you've coming up. Like,
and like,
so it's very engaging.
You've been to some of the shows, the one we did at the Clayton there, and you see the demographic, you see the people that are there. They're just the nicest, most supportive people. And I'm not just saying that because they follow me, but they really are. And I'd hate to lose that.
It was a lovely warm room. Like, that was that gig. Like, and you could see the love. Like, it must be real heartwarming for you. So you said, like, you're a podcaster, but you're a million things in ways besides that, but it's just easier conversation, isn't it?
I suppose I'm a content creator, influencer, podcaster,
presenter,
entrepreneur, presenter, kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Oh, I wouldn't go with the second part of that sentence.
Definitely,
sure.
definitely.
What would be your dream job? Like, is there a job out there you'd love if someone offered you tomorrow?
I guess I'd love to do... I've said this a few times lately, and it's only the last couple of years I've really wanted to do it. I'd love to do a travel show on YouTube. I never really wanted to be a TV presenter as such, but I'd love to head off doing a travel show for YouTube where you'd have a bit more freedom to do the things you want to do and say the things you want to say.
Okay, not be restricted by
the traditional channels, exactly.
Okay. And I mean, we'll get to it because I know from videoing in Thailand is where it kind of started. You had 7 days of Mayo. These are all things that kind of were that. So you can see that's trickled through the book, like that was something you love, traveling and documenting.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Now, young life. So this is the big thing. I only learned this in the last year. Leitrim was home to you at the beginning.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Drumcairn?
A lot of people don't know that. 0 to 4. I was in Drumcairn.
Lots of memories?
I don't have too many memories. Just the one or two that I mentioned in the book. When I escaped, I broke out of the house one morning to try and go down and...
Join the circus.
Down to join the circus, yeah. And I just 1 or 2 vague memories of school and my babysitter, Maura. I used to just be obsessed with this lady that used to mind me. Oh, right. And they're the only memories I have.
Was it Drumcairn you were setting up your own army checkpoints?
No, that was when I moved to Mayo. Then I was mad to be a soldier.
Okay, and your dad was a guard.
Dad was a guard.
And your mum, she sounds like the Mrs. Doyle of Mayo. Yeah. Like, firstly, you've talked about, like, she has had MS for a number of years. But, like, she reminds me, I see where you got a lot of your graft from, and I'll get into some of your graft, but you say in one part, like, she would be suffering on the couch with pain and then she'd be out and she could power hose the roof. Yeah. Service the car, go pick a moss off the roof. Like,
this is mum. Mum has MS and she wears this like a badge of honour. She's the longest surviving MS patient in Mayo.
Oh, okay.
And she tells everyone as if it's like,
Yeah.
I'll have I'm the longest. And so she'd have good days and bad days. So she could wake up on Monday and be fine Monday and Tuesday. And if there's any bit of sun at all, well, all the curtains are down. We have these old net curtains in our house,
Yeah.
all the curtains are down, they're all in the washing machine, they're all on the dryer, the power hose is taken out. She rings me and says, will you come over and set up the power hose? She'll power hose the whole driveway, the house, the car, the dog. And then she's in bed like with chronic pain for 4 days.
And like when you were young, did she have it at those years? Or was
She has it, from our teenage.
Okay.
From our teenage years up, yeah.
Okay, so, and again, worked in chippers, everything like.
She's done a bit of everything, yeah. She's never been afraid of
Where
work.
did you get it from?
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
And your
I
dad,
definitely got it from mum's side.
Yeah, okay. And your dad's, you said you had an awful lot of respect for your dad. You really idolised him, which is a lovely thing to hear, to look back and be young and go, I idolised my dad. Like, and he was the local guard in wherever he moved to.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. And we had a great relationship. We still do have a great relationship, but he was very honest with me, and he was very, what's the word? Like he'd share adult stuff with me at a young age. Okay. Nothing he shouldn't have shared.
No.
But you could sit down and have a conversation with dad about drugs or about criminals or about crime.
And he wasn't trying to hide it away from you.
No, not at all.
It must have been interesting as a kid. Like,
it was
hearing
really,
a little bit of what it's like.
Really interesting. And then he had a gun, so I used to think like he's like James Bond. And I have this picture in my head where he'd come in and dad would always be, he's a great chef, and he'd be cooking the dinner, and I'd be sitting at the kitchen table looking over, and he'd have a gun on his side, and he'd be there just
Did you all do your homework a lot in that house? Did you?
Yeah. To be honest with you, we didn't. He wasn't as hard on us as he should have been.
Okay, it's mad. Yeah. And like then growing up, I mean, you mentioned in one part of the book there about your granddad in Westport you never met.
No.
But he was nearly like an influencer of his time, where he took a princess, was it, around Clubay? Was that?
Yeah.
And that started the whole Westport tourism, or it's aligned.
It was key. It was key to it. Yeah, he was the man around Westport. Vernon Clarke. He owned a TV shop, and he was highly regarded in Westport. Now, unfortunately, I never met him.
DNA must have come through somewhere.
I hear a lot of stories about him, and even from people who are still alive today would share their stories with me about paying off their last installment on their TV. But that was a huge thing where he would rent most of his TVs. Okay, so people would be just renting. They'd come in every Friday and pay the rent on their TV. And, there's people still around that
remember the days
and I've never heard a bad word about him.
That's a nice way to have. Yeah. Hear back, even though you never met him,
Never heard.
And then on your mum's side, there was a few influencers in Derry, where there was guys doing walking tours and interacting with Hollywood stars and all that. So you're getting it from both sides. You're kind of, how would you say, your love for promoting and tourism and marketing and all that. So
yeah,
did they obviously? Was it one of your uncles in Derry? I think
Martin.
So you were seeing them doing what they were doing.
Yeah,
and you were probably influenced by that, or did you like it? Or
I guess growing up, I didn't know I was being influenced by that. But then at an older age, you kind of say, oh, maybe I'll try this, or maybe I'll try that.
Yeah. Worked for them, and you've seen how it worked, I suppose. Yeah. So an interesting mix. And such Derry, and then your dad. Your dad was Mayo.
Dad's from Westport, yeah.
So I've written here Grafter. In the book, like you
or Egypt.
Well, as long as you had the money at the end of the week. But you would have up at 7 doing a bread van run.
Yeah, when I was about 14, I got a job. I was on holidays with mum and dad, and I told them I'd love a job. And dad said, would you? And I said, oh, I'd love a job. Would you be able to get me a job? And I was about 14 or 15. And a colleague of his son owned a petrol station, and he got me a job washing cars on a Saturday. But he used to do a bread run
first.
In the morning. So I'd get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. He'd come out to the house and collect me. And he used to love bringing me because the supermarkets wouldn't check the returns.
Okay.
So I'd be in and I'd pick up the returns, and I remember, I'll never forget this day. We come out to the van and he goes, what are they? And I was like, they're the returns. And he's like, and did you tell anyone? And I go, no, I just thought I'd bring them out to the van. And he was like, brilliant. He's after getting 15 loaves of bread for free here.
Do we have to cut this out, lads?
No, he's living in a different country now.
Okay, so it's a safe enough bet.
So I used to do that in the morning, and then we'd be back at the petrol station for around 9. We'd have all kind of West Mayo done, and then I'd wash cars all day. And because I was so small and I looked so young, I always looked way younger than I am. People used to think, God almighty, this 10-year-old out washing cars. They used to be throwing money at me.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. I used to.
So do you think when you were young, did you love working?
I loved it.
Did you like, and not in a greedy way, but like, geez, great, a few quid?
I've never been about the money, Brendan.
Yeah.
Never. And it's never been, I've never gone home and said, God, I made 80 euros today. I just loved being gone and working and just having some sort of purpose.
Yeah, okay, because I mean, it's mad for that age to do that.
And it's
much
probably,
hours.
looking back, it's probably because I didn't have a lot of friends and I had nowhere else to be. And I was probably running away from the fact that I was a bit of a loner.
Okay, were you a loner by choice?
Was it by choice? I don't know. You see, I didn't play sport, and then all my friends played sport.
And you say in the book you kind of wish now you kept at the game.
I definitely do.
But an interesting one, you said when you weren't picked, it was probably because you mightn't have been good at it because you didn't do it.
No.
But you in your head thought, because they don't like me.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So did you think? I mean, I captured this right throughout the book in many moments, and it's a lovely trait. I don't mean you big idiot, but like you must look at it from reading it. You've obviously realised I do overthink things sometimes.
Oh, I definitely overthink.
Yeah,
things,
and even to now, I say there's a real genuine over niceness nearly to you that you're probably doing yourself a bit of difficulty some days when you should just let it go.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like I have to do a book signing now on Saturday, and I'm not going to lie to you, I won't sleep between now and Saturday.
Really?
Yeah.
And today we're filming this now on a Monday night.
I know. Yeah.
It's
hanging over me. It's hanging over me, and I'd love to get out of it. I have this sort of.
I'm mad because I know like you could have done 50 book signings and they probably would have been hugely successful, but you won't do them because you're afraid if they don't work. Is that more so it? Or you just don't like the public attention? There's a little bit. Yeah, you're afraid like if I do a book signing down in Cork and no one shows up, I'm like, oh God, this is embarrassing. Yeah. But
I've done a show, like we've sold out the Cork Opera House.
I know, so I have a safe enough bet.
I have followers down there, but there's a bit of that. And I've spoken to other authors and other bookstores who said, look, Alan, if 5 or 6 people show up, it's a success.
That can be it, because it can be a Tuesday afternoon, depending on the diary and everything like that.
And like one bookstore said to me, like our biggest book signing here was 25 people.
Okay.
And I said, well, that's great. If I'm only looking for 5 or 6, I'll be able to get rent a crowd.
Yeah. But you'd still not do it then, just...
That's the one strange thing about me, Brendan. I don't crave the spotlight or the attention. I love doing the shows for the feeling you get afterwards. And I love giving people a great night out and a great value for money. But I'm not a showman. I don't like being the centre of attention.
Yeah, and you've skipped down to a few notes here because I've written like, you don't seem to like the spotlight, which completely, to many people's opinion, I'd say contravenes what you're doing. Like,
I love putting the show together.
Yeah.
And I love that the show goes well. But you've seen them, you've been to them. The shows aren't about me. They're about everyone else.
You absolutely showcase other people and carry them along. Like it's a really, I think until you go to them and you understand, you're going, hold on, I'm putting on a show. This is like a cabaret.
Yeah.
And all these brilliant people. And you're giving people on the stage platforms to grow their own followers and grow their own careers and telling lovely stories, sad stories. So yeah, it's just from watching and reading the book, or not watching, reading the book and watching the shows, very prevalent that, oh, look at me, everybody, I'm on stage, clap at me. It doesn't seem to be that at all.
No, and I love that. I was on Garen's podcast a few weeks ago and Garen said that we did 8 nights together around Ireland and he said those 8 nights gave him the confidence to do his show. And that's what I love.
Yeah.
Like it was Cowboy Kelly that gave me the confidence to put a show together. I kind of passed that on to Garen. Garen, with the help of God, will bring other people up through the ranks. And I think that's rare enough these days. And I think this industry is very cliquey. And I think there's a lot of people who can be a little bit intimidated or maybe insecure and would say, oh, I don't want him on my show or I don't want him on my podcast. Whereas I'm very much of the thought process of just let's
all rise together.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah. I mean, in the book, we're going back to some of your working days. I mean, Aldi. You even there mentioned that you were trying to get others to go for it, like go up for the next promotion. Like, so it's ingrained in you, obviously. If you can help someone along,
I used to get a great buzz out of that. There's one particular person in Aldi, and I was told he'll never make it as a manager. And there's 2. The one is still a manager in there, and the other one has gone on to work in a different business in retail, and he's the store manager of that store. And I was told that those 2 lads will never make it as managers. And I play football with one and I see the other one regularly. And again, it just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy that they're doing well. And I'm just like, see, we stuck it to them now and we told them that we did have the stuff to do it.
And that's another theme in your life. Your principal told you never make anything. And that seems to be it. You put it in the beginning of the book as like, was that your moment to go, do you bring that memory back a lot when you're doing all your projects?
I do, and I think it was a dangerous thing to say, and I think it kind of didn't help me for a long time. You know, a principal coming in and sitting down saying you'll never be anything without your leaving cert. I'll never be anything because I'm not coming in learning the things you're telling me to learn.
Yeah, the memory test.
Such an outrageous thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, and then I remember one day going in doing, we had to do a test on a computer with our career guidance teacher, and you tick all the boxes and you say yes or no, and this is what you like and this is what you don't like. And what came up at the end was I'd be a forklift driver. And I remember...
What kind of computer system?
I remember sitting down in front of this computer system, and the teacher comes over and looks over my shoulder, and the teacher was like, oh... And like, I have no interest in driving a forklift, and never had. I love driving.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, that was all within the same time period. I mean, there's a computer here telling you you're going to be a forklift driver. You have your principal telling you you'll never be anything without leaving cert. And I just thought, this is such a horrible thing. At the time I was probably like, no, I'll prove you all wrong. But looking back now, I think they should have been a little bit more sensitive, and I'm hoping people are a little bit more sensitive now.
You would think nowadays that would never be said to someone.
I hope so.
Even if in some cases it might be a reason that it might be true, but you don't say it. Like.
And don't get me wrong, I still have no security in my life as such. Like, this is a very volatile job, and it could be all over tomorrow. But I've definitely been lucky to try a lot of things, and if it all ended tomorrow, I can say, look, I tried that and it was brilliant.
Yeah. And like with school then, so would you, I mean, you mentioned about, you know, you said you didn't have a lot of friends. And at one stage you mentioned that you had put on a bit of weight. Was a bit of bullying there? Was it the principal? Was it all these things together? You go, I hate school, or I just hated the whole learning and studying and sitting in the classroom?
The thing about it was, I didn't really mind the studying because I did really well on my junior cert. Then from TY onwards, it was a concoction of things. There was a bit of bullying. I had put on the weight, and I just fell out of love with school. And I suppose other lads were kind of getting with girls and going to discos and having, you know, playing sport. And I was going the opposite way. I was getting no girls, no sport, no discos, and just didn't like.
Okay, so you just got, I just need to get out of this space.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. And speaking of your first kiss, she eventually, did you convert this lady?
What did I say about what? What did I say about this? Because I can't remember now.
You speak about the first kiss. You think it was for her ticking the box exercise because years later.
Yeah, she has since married a woman.
Okay, fair enough. But she just said, "Oh, I wanted to see if these men are nice." So.
She was a really lovely girl, and you know, I'd often think about her. She was a lovely, lovely girl, but she was obviously just ticking a box.
Yeah,
trying to.
But you were willing to let her tick the box.
Absolutely,
you were happy to be there.
I'd tick the box today if she asked.
Oh, there you go. That's an exclusive. So we just go back to Aldi because there it seems from your story is that's when you really hit what I call it a wall of where am I going with my life, and it got really. I don't want to be too dramatic. Like I don't know, could I say too dark? But it seemed to get quite dark and a bad time.
No, it was. To be fair, it was, and I think. I had this mad drive to be a manager so I was doing hotel management at the time, and the hotel I was working in had closed down, and a friend of mine was managing Aldi, and he said, look, there's great career prospects in Aldi. And I remember I had kind of turned it down 2 or 3 times, and I was saying to him, I just don't think it doesn't allow you to be creative. And he was selling to me, there is opportunity to be creative, you know, and there's great career progression and this, that and the other. So eventually I said, look, I'll give it a go. So I went in at the very bottom as a store assistant and just had this like really unhealthy drive to be a manager as quick as I could. And I got
What age was that at? Sorry, just so
this was like, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 years ago?
Oh, okay, that's recent. Okay. I always thought this was younger again. Okay.
No. Probably a little bit more than that. Probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay.
9 years ago.
Just give us a picture.
Yeah. And I got all his notes off him and all his management books, and I just absolutely ate them every evening, studying. And then I was made deputy manager. Is that what they call it at the time? Yeah. So you're a deputy manager. So a deputy manager steps in when the assistant manager isn't around. And then I went for my assistant manager exams and got them. And then I kind of crashed then after that, where it was kind of a...
Were you striving to be something, but then when you got it, you were going, no, this still isn't.
You
knew deep down, like.
Absolutely, yeah. It was kind of, what was all that about?
Yeah.
What the hell was that about?
Mad. And do you still think it's going back to that day? Did you ever feel from that principle saying that, like, God, I have to prove myself to others or to yourself?
I guess that was going on in the background, but I hadn't realised that was what was going on.
Okay. And then we fast forward to this moment where, like, you talk about sitting in your sitting room, closing the curtains, not answer phones, people getting worried about you, but it was your brother that kind of reached out.
Yeah, Stephen pulled me out of it, and then I went to see a therapist, and you know, started realising I kept saying I'll never be anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I kept saying to these people, I'll never be anything now, and I'm not happy in Aldi, and I don't like it, and what's wrong with me? I don't like the job, and I can't do it. So there's obviously something clearly wrong with me, because everyone's telling me it's a great job and I should stay there. And then you go to a therapist and you kind of say, she writes everything down. She says, well, you're all these things. It's just that Aldi wasn't for you.
Yeah.
You know, and you have all these other qualities and all these other things you are already. Yeah. And then you started to realise, well, maybe it's okay that Aldi didn't suit me, or the hotel didn't suit me.
When you went for your, because I've never gone to therapy. It's not too many men, you know what I mean? West of Ireland, the stigma was always like, maybe it wasn't the thing most people did at that age. The first day going in, did you have to be shoved? Were you really definitely nervous? Like, no. Did you loosen up the first day? Did you find, what was it like for people that haven't gone or maybe wondering like?
No, definitely. I had to be shoved, and I remember going in there thinking like, how did this happen?
It must be scary to go, oh God, how am I here? Like, okay.
Because of that stigma that you talk about, you know, and I have friends in America who go on their lunch break and they're like telling everyone, hey, I'm just going to my therapist, I'll be back at 2.
Yeah.
And in Ireland, we're like going down to Carraboyle for a breakfast roll. You know, but and in America, no one cares. It's like going to the dentist. It's like, but I do remember feeling a little bit ashamed and a bit kind of like, God, what's wrong with me and how come I'm here and this isn't right? And now I would recommend everyone to go.
Anyone. And even if they're against it, just try it.
Definitely try it. The one thing I will say is I tried 2 or 3 therapists and I didn't click with the first couple. And then the third one that I clicked with, it took a while to click. But again, you're going in and you're like, you're crossing your arms and you're like, I'm fine and I don't really want to talk about it. And then they're like, well, tell me about your childhood. And that was fine. I don't really want to talk about it. And then you're focusing on the now and you're saying, oh, there's a fella and he's really annoying me and he was my boss and he told me that I wasn't this. And you're focused on what happened last week and she's like, right, well, where's this coming from? Yes. And it took her months to break me. Months. And I remember the day she did break me and I broke down. And that's when it started to come right again.
Okay.
You know, but she had a lot of patience with me and I joke about it. I don't know, did I say this in the book, but I joke about it to my friends that she retired.
Yes.
Did I say that in the book? Yeah. She actually retired after me and I feel like I wore her out.
And there was times where you didn't have enough money to do it, but you just knew this is what I need to do.
I scraped by, but I remember one particular day and she was €50 a session and I was coming down. I was in Galway, working in Galway at the time. And she was in West Mayo, and I remember I had to drive an hour and a half to come and see her on a Wednesday or whatever it was. And I remember one day having so little money that I was afraid that I'd have diesel to get back. And I never brought up money with her. And I never told her that I was short for money. Yeah. And I wouldn't tell anyone. But that particular day, when I went to pay her, she goes, no, it's grand. That one's on me. And I don't know how she knew.
Yeah.
But that €50 was the difference in me surviving that week or not.
Yeah. And I obviously do not want to know any specifics, but the moment you said where you broke down, was it like, do you think, she really made sense? What she was saying to you made sense to you and you go, wow, was it like...
It wasn't instant, no. I suppose I had a big breakdown and then you're exhausted, Brendan. Like you're so tired. I had to go straight to bed. Like I'll never forget those couple of sessions where you'd leave and you'd be finished at 5 o'clock, you'd have to be in bed at 6 o'clock. You'd be just exhausted, absolutely exhausted, and you just want to sleep. And it took weeks. But
that from that moment you kind of felt, right, this is now turning a corner as such.
I guess for a week or two you're going in and you're a little bit apprehensive and you're like, I hope she doesn't make me cry again and I hope I don't get into this again. It gets very difficult for a few weeks. But then once you get through that, it gets so good.
Okay, yeah, you know, it's nice to hear the honesty of going, because I'm always intrigued by this process. Like, and am I right in saying you were on local radio during a lot of this time, having the crack? I mean, I remember you in Galway Bay FM.
Yeah, during that time, I was on local radio, and I'd often leave the radio station and go to therapy, and then come back and be the.
But you were feeling, but let's say coming up to when the therapy was like in the times that you're feeling bad, were you on radio those times as well?
Yeah,
so just going in. Putting on this, facade, I suppose. It must have
but you'd put it on 24/7.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It wasn't just on the radio.
Right.
It'll be on full time.
It's like you're so public then, like, and so no. And I remember yourself and Ollie Turner, like, great crack all the time. But I suppose you just never know what's going on.
No.
And like nowadays, I'm sure you have lots of moments as an influencer, whatever we want to call you, where people do make comments and that. And do you find you've built a resilience to a point because of what you learned back in those days, maybe?
I think what I've learned now is that if somebody's calling you something, you know that it's a reflection of them or that it's projection.
Okay.
So I don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal, yeah. Because I mean, you can't in your game, like, and there's multiple moments. And like we'll come to in a minute, there are still moments where you're probably too nice nearly. You know,
there's a bit of constructive criticism where some people would say to you, you know, the odd new follower. So my tagline is people will give you the shits.
Yeah.
And then the odd new follower would say, God, you're awful passive aggressive. And then you'd have to sit back and go, am I passive aggressive? And then you'd watch it back yourself and you'd say, I don't know, I'm only having the crack there. They just don't know my personality yet.
If they haven't followed you enough, they mightn't get some of those little in-jokes. Like,
So I guess how somebody just tuning in for a day would think, oh, he's a real passive aggressive bollocks.
Yeah, no, I know. People give you the shit, because I mean, you bring them up and you slag about it and you say, oh, but it's all in great humor, like, and so we talk about influencer, but like, as in one of your chapters called Genesis, and this is where, as I said, you talked about your camcorder in Thailand, making YouTube clips before YouTube was even really well known, I'd say.
Yeah.
7 Days of Mayo got 83,000 views. And then the big one, and I'm sure a lot of the big Irish influencers, they all got famous because of a donkey, did they?
The donkey
Or was it just you?
Donkey gate. Yeah, that was the turning point really of my page, where these donkeys came into my house in the middle of the night, into the driveway.
Yeah.
And then it was just this big adventure of me trying to get them back.
We don't tell it all now because it's a great story.
Trying to get them back into my driveway, and the whole night went on for hours. And then for weeks after, it was like, you're your man from Donkey Gate.
Yeah.
I don't even know where this Donkey Gate came from. But,
yeah.
You know, but even that, you're talking about people who give you the shits. People would say to me, that was set up. You know, you clearly set that up. And I'm like, how would I get 2 donkeys into my house at 1:30 at night?
You're doing well.
But there's always that element of...
Oh, I'd say it must be incessant though.
Yeah.
There's a few there, because I mean, you'd watch on and you'd watch some influencers, and you hate that word to a point, but content creators, and they definitely are. But like you're not, like, and some of the stories you tell, like through the book, are insane, and the perception people have. Like, you're obviously a millionaire now, isn't that right?
Yeah, I'm a millionaire. Yeah, I have a helicopter landing now to collect me.
I was wondering what that noise was coming in.
But that's a great point though, Brendan, because there's influencers and content creators in England who set up sketches all day, every day, and they are genuinely making hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
You know, and they're setting their wife up for a prank, and it's so obvious that the wife knows this is coming. And all the comments are like, God, this is so staged, yawn, blah blah blah. But they're cleaning up, absolutely cleaning up.
Why don't you clean up more so?
I just couldn't do it.
Would you love to go, I'll go at it now for 2 years, make a fortune, retire?
It has crossed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you see I don't want to, not an end point, but like, do you kind of go, God, I don't know, could I do this for another 5 or 10 years now?
No, I know I couldn't do it for another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
I guess my out is I do want to set up a business, maybe similar to Northern Hemisphere or whatever I did. I'd love to give that another go, and then take a step back and run that business and have other influencers and other content creators come up, because I understand marketing and I understand the algorithm, and I'm really, really good at that.
Yeah.
So that's probably the end goal.
Okay. And I mean, being an influencer, like, people just go, oh, just make a few videos. Like, I've seen people in your area doing it, like being at a day at the races.
Yeah.
You know, and you speak about the Gala races, like, and it's great fun and great crack, but like, people watching, but to read your book, and I don't want to give out too much about, like, the pressure you're under to record live clips, and then you're being pulled away to do this next, and you say yourself, you're not a horse racing aficionado, like, you know what I mean? You had to kind of learn on the fly to a point as well, like, you know?
Yeah.
But to go to an event for an evening, shoot it, reshoot it, edit it, like, it's tiring work. It's not like you're sipping champagne all evening. Like, it's intense.
It's challenging, yeah.
It's challenging. And I mean, I know people go, oh yeah, it's not like lifting blocks, but if that's your job, it's a tough job in its own right.
No, and I think the beauty about that is that I did lift the blocks, that I was a labourer and I was on building sites at 5:30 in the morning, and I think that I do know what hard work is.
Yeah.
So whilst it is hard work, I probably appreciate what real physical work is too. So I don't moan about it, I don't bitch about it.
Yeah.
So I was on a shoot last week with Cadbury, and I was there from 8:30 in the morning in Dublin until 7:30 in the evening. And that video is going to be like a 20 or 30 second long video that's going to be out in the next couple of days. Whilst it was a really long, challenging day, I've had worse days.
No, absolutely. Like, absolutely. And I suppose the other things you comes in and you mentioned is like headaches dealing with agencies, really dodgy deals that you can be offered. Like, and you just manage yourself. Like, I know you have your Mandy.
Mandy manages my social media stuff, so that's whatever gigs I do. Yeah, and then I manage my own shows. I manage everything.
Podcasts, the live shows itself.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, like that, and then just go be the man at the front of it as well. Like, but like the agencies, like. Do you regularly get offered people trying to coerce you into, come with us? Like, would that be?
Yeah. So the agencies are quite competitive. They would be trying to poach you from one agent. Like I don't know if this happens for other content creators, but I would regularly be approached from an agency and say, would you like to come with us? And we'll promise you all this work and blah, blah, blah. But the thing about me is I'm not really in it for the gigs.
Yeah.
Do you know, I do a gig to survive.
Yeah.
If you see me doing a paid promotion,
that's just paying the bills.
I just
paying for the gas and the super sir.
Literally just have to pay my rent. I don't love it.
Yeah, no, it really comes across that way in the book. Like, and I think it's a great insight into the world of an influence. And even if someone that was giving you the shits, maybe that had an opinion about you, I think if they read this book, they go, oh, actually, there's a lot of interest in.
Yeah, and the odd paid gig then allows you to write a book.
Of course,
you know. I appreciate it, but it's just that I'm just not an influencer.
Yeah, and it also stirs up relationship rumors. Being an influencer, you've had everything.
Oh, I'm everything. I could be writing you now at the end of this show.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The rumors. Well, EJ's jacket has worked anyway.
The rumors will be all around Sligo.
And are you single now for anyone watching?
I'm single now.
Okay, so we've quashed that rumor for now.
Yeah.
And you're on about doing gigs helps you to write a book, but it also maybe helped you set up a gin brand.
Yeah.
Your own gin. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't want to reveal too much, but I mean, I've worked a business myself over the years. I've had a couple of businesses, but like, it is a real eye opener into what it's like to set up a business, but also your work ethos of I want it to be the best. Like, it'd be easy just go, I'm an influencer, I have loads of followers, make this gin, off I go.
Yeah.
But some of the stories of you getting it made, bringing in the best to make it.
Well, you see, I knew people would come after me and say, what do you know about gin? Mm. And I knew that, so I had to make sure that I wasn't giving them any ammo. So I had to go and make the best gin I could make.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I will take a bullet for that. I'll stand over it and say that it's one of the best gins in this country.
Okay.
But obviously it didn't work out.
But like it could have worked, like, from the way you're telling the story. There was a few little things that didn't, like, I can still see that gin coming back.
It should
in
be.
The right moment of your life, I think.
There was some breakdown in the distillery. I don't know what happened. I don't know. But the people I was dealing with in the distillery have since left.
Okay.
And now a new company has taken over the distillery. So I don't know what happened, but obviously there was something going on, and my project was thrown to the back boiler.
Yeah.
And it's a pity. It's a pity because hotels and bars and shops all over the country were asking for it, and I couldn't get it.
And it was obvious. We can't let this interview go without. It was called after
my dog,
beloved dog Cookie,
Jane,
who is nearly as famous as yourself at this stage.
Most people follow me for her.
Yeah, they were worried about her than you, I'd say.
Definitely.
They long see a picture of Cookie every so often, like.
Yeah.
And she's what age now?
She's 15.
15. Yeah. So she's doing well, and she's had her ups and downs as well, which is well documented in the book. And it's funny when you mention Cookie in the book, you mention how you hate funerals.
Yeah.
You have a fear, not hate.
I do have a fear of funerals. Yeah.
And it goes back to you lost an uncle and a cousin.
I'm not sure if that was it.
Yeah.
If that was I don't know. I've always had a fear of them, but of late it's got a lot worse. And maybe it was. Martin and Caelan passed away within a few weeks of each other. Martin was my uncle and Caelan was my cousin. And maybe that pushed me over the edge.
Okay.
But
it's a very, like, to read it is like you totally, like, can't go to them at all. Like,
no.
Yeah.
No.
It was a mad, and like, I mean,
it
was so funny that Cookie is obviously in your mind at your age that drew you to that in the chapter, like, saying that fear that. So that's not a day you're looking forward to, I'm sure.
No, it's not. It's not. But we'll get through it.
No, it'll happen. From the gin story, then there's an amazing chapter 7. Okay, all I'm going to say is, if you walk into this house and the book's there and you have half an hour, read about Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah,
like I suppose the gin, the Northern Hemisphere. For me, watching influencers, you just think they just associate with brand. Someone else makes it. Someone else posts it out.
Yeah.
What you did with Northern Hemisphere was actually, it should be taught in schools. Genuinely. I know people go to set up a business, and we've all seen people set up businesses, and they just mightn't be good at it, or they mightn't have the work ethic. But to read that story, like, is bonkers. So
I don't know, am I a control freak, or do I just like things to be right? But I guess when it's your name and when I'm asking Brendan to buy something, I want to make sure Brendan's happy with it. And it's a bit like the shows, Brendan. The cost of everything went up. The cost of the tickets went up, the cost of the venue went up, the cost of the acts went up. The ticket price stayed the same, where I'm absorbing the cost into the show, because I'm always about the value for money. That ticket cannot go over a certain price. Yeah. Whereas I'm looking at other shows that are, and without
it's okay, I know what you're going to say,
without being
I would agree with you.
Yeah, they're like 80, 90 euros, and you're like, well, how can you justify 80 or 90 euros for that show? Yeah. And it's similar to the gin, and it's similar to the clothes. I just want it to be right. Yeah. And if something isn't right, I want to be able to say, well, I did my best, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think anyone read that chapter, because that will blow your mind. What it's like, what you think it's like to be an influencer and just attach yourself to a brand, and what you did was mind-blowing.
Now, we could have done what you said a minute ago. We could have done I think probably Tommy Bowe does that, where he wears a t-shirt and he's like, this is my t-shirt that I've been told to wear. Yeah. But that's an easier route to go down.
Yeah. God, like it was mad. It was mad. But anyways, I want people to, if there's one chapter you go to first, it'll bite you into the whole book. Like, or anyone setting up a business, read that first before you go into it.
All right, thanks.
So then you mentioned the live shows, and so you can't even count how many tickets you've sold now at this stage. But there was a time when you were worried about selling out 30 tickets.
Yeah.
And how many? It was like a number of weeks or a month or two, maybe. To the moment you sold out 2,000.
It was kind of. I had no other option. It was either go back now working in Aldi or try these live shows. People were saying to me, why don't you do a live podcast? The podcast was going really well. People were saying, why don't you do a live podcast? I had never heard of live podcasts. And then I started going to a few. And then even when you're sitting in the audience and you're kind of saying to yourself, people paid money for this? Yeah. You know, and you're like, I didn't really get it. Yeah. So I said, I need to try one, or else it's go back and get a job, a 9 to 5. So it was basically one last ditch effort to be self-employed. Okay. So you would have kept doing your podcasting as a hobby almost, but you would have gone, I need a normal day job again. I need a normal day job, yeah.
But the story, like from 30, you were worried about 30, and then maybe you'll get 100.
I approached a hotel, and the room would facilitate 100 people, and I said, well, if I sell 30 tickets, can we put in a load of tables and chairs?
Fluff it out.
And she said, oh yeah, but she said, you'd want to be selling at least 30 now to fill the room with tables and chairs. Yeah. And I went away thinking, right, I have to sell 30 tickets. And that's a true story. Yeah. And then I was approached by the TF, and they were trying to convince me to do a show in there. And as it happened, the venue had double booked me, the hotel.
Oh, okay.
So I had the guests booked, but I didn't have a venue. And then I started thinking, well, maybe how many will we fit in the TF? And I think we had to fit in 540. Yeah. So then I brought in a few extra guests and made the show a little bit.
Broke their system.
Made the show a little bit bigger, and then we put it on sale, and it sold really well.
And all your TF shows are sold out.
They have, yeah.
Every time you put it on. But like that must be so... how do you say, does it confidence inspiring? Is it like, my God, the love I feel here of the people of not just Mayo, obviously, but the west of Ireland and beyond? Like, it must be so heartwarming when that happens.
Well, I don't really think they're coming for me, so I don't feel. But
they're trusting you. They're trusting you to know. Well, if Alan's involved, it's going to be good.
Maybe
it has to be.
I don't see it like that. Yeah, I just see it's a good night's crack with a good team of people. Yeah, I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't think people say, "Oh, we'll go to Alan Clarke's show."
Yeah, well, they clearly are. They're clearly going like.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they are.
Yeah,
but it's always the lineup. The lineup is really good.
Yeah, but again, it's your production. But I mean, I've seen you you actually did really good stand-up set at the beginning of your show, and then the way you can talk, and it's up and down. Like, it's serious talk. It's complete chaos. It's brilliant music. It's carnage. Like, you know what I mean? And I mean, as I said, and maybe anyone that's watching hasn't gone to one. Like, it's definitely one of the best nights out. It's a lovely long night. It's nice and relaxed. Yeah. You don't have to sit down and shut up. You can go and have a pint.
The one thing most people say to me at the end was, I didn't know what to expect, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I love that. It's sort of underselling and over-delivering. Yeah. And I love that aspect.
And only you and Tommy Tiernan hold the record of selling out the TF 3 times. Is that right?
Was it 3 times in 9 months or something?
In a period of time.
Yeah, I can't remember what the statistic is.
And then you sold out the nightclub down the road as well.
Yeah.
I remember going to Castlebar when I was young, and there was either one or the other every few years.
I'm probably the only person to sell out both venues in one night.
Who've your, like, between the podcast and the live shows, like, I mean, I'm going to ask you who's your favourite guest or favourite guest, and I know that's probably a hard one to answer. Was there one guest, you know, and no one's going to take offence, obviously, but what was one guest you go, wow, that was amazing?
Of late, it's probably Al Porter.
Oh, okay.
But before that, Peter Townsend is a Sligo man. Did you ever hear of Peter?
Yeah.
He blew my mind because he has been in so many different prisons and in so many different systems and been through so much. And look where he is now, you know, and he's helping so many people now. So I would really look up to Peter Townsend and say that episode really opened my mind. Like, we're talking about, you're watching Kin on TV or Love Hate and you're saying, wow, God, is that really what it's like?
Yeah.
You're sitting in a room with one of these people.
That must be mad.
And he's here telling you these stories about, you know, being afraid for his life and his family and, you know, being for want of a better word, a junkie on the streets of London, and his mother coming over and not even recognising him. And his mother came over to bring him for his birthday dinner and he left the mother for a fix.
Wow.
You know, so that really blew my mind. And then I guess probably Al Porter a couple of weeks ago was another great one because you're talking to one of the first people who was ever cancelled in Ireland.
True.
This is when cancel culture came in, and you're like, he was cancelled. And at the time, and I said this in the podcast, I was working in radio and probably saying to myself, that fella's on everything, and how is he getting everything? And oh, look at him there now after getting his big show on Today FM. And there was a lot of jealousy towards him, because he just seemed to be on everything. He was on the Late Late Show.
I know, he really shot up,
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then you're working your ass off in a radio station, saying to yourself, how come I've never been approached, or how come I didn't get that job, or wasn't offered it, or wasn't even doing it? So then to be able to sit down with him a few weeks ago and realise what was really going on and get inside his brain, and the work he has done on himself for 6 years has been phenomenal. And I don't care what anyone has done in the past, if you're willing to put in the work that he has done for the last 6 years and make yourself a better person and realise all your wrongs and right all your wrongs, then I think you deserve the world.
Okay, yeah, because it seems to be a good crossover in the two people you mentioned, like, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's it must be amazing to get to talk to people. I mean, we're lucky here too, like, but you do really long, extensive interviews as well.
It's hard to find people, to be honest with you, and to open up.
Yeah.
I'll get 5 or 6 requests every week saying, can I come on your podcast? But you know that they just want to come on to sell something or to get a few followers.
Yeah. How do you let them down?
Which I don't mind doing either. But as long as you have a genuine story,
as well,
I think that it has to be genuine.
Okay. We mentioned about interviewing people and doing things. You interviewed a famous Ben Tierney at the Galway races.
I did.
And that had double ramifications. So obviously he became the heartthrob of the Galway races.
Yeah.
But there was obviously another negative side. And I don't know if I've told you before, I'm originally from just outside Tuam myself.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a big Saw Doctors fan.
Yeah.
Were you always a Saw Doctors fan?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, who wasn't? You were Galway and Mayo. You live in Galway, worked in
Galway. You know,
Mayo.
being a DJ, Brendan, you can't not be a Saw Doctors fan.
Yeah,
it's like a fail-safe.
Yeah.
How do I end the night?
Oh, guaranteed.
N17.
Every time.
Do you know?
So, well, for anyone that didn't know, like, obviously, Ben, there was a bit of crack and banter about Tuam and what's good about Tuam and whatever. And then there was a few fun throwaway comments, but it came back to bite you the next day. I don't think it actually was a bite of you. Like, you were like,
so Ben was mad to be on this interview, and I knew Ben had a few pints in him. And you weigh people up, obviously, because you don't want them to make an idiot out of themselves. So Ben was very eager to be on. So you'd have a chat with him for a minute or two, and then you'd say, right, this guy is well tuned in and he knows what he's doing and he knows what he's getting himself into.
He's no relation, by the way, as well.
But I guess
remember that.
People just watch the 90 seconds or the 2 minutes and think you pounce on this vulnerable drunk lad. But it wasn't the case. So I asked him what are the best things in Tuam, and he started listing out a load of pubs. And then I said, is there anything good in Tuam that isn't related to drinking? And he got a bit tongue-tied for a while, and then he started naming out football clubs. So I said, thanks a million, Ben. And he walked off, and I turned to the camera and I said, well, there you have it. There's nothing good in Tuam.
Yeah.
And then that evening, Davey from the Saw Doctors put up a Facebook post saying, who gave Alan Clarke a microphone? Where are you from, you rat?
Okay.
And I'm back in the hotel. This is day 4 of the races, maybe day 3 or 4. And you're kind of refreshing it to see, does it get traction? Has it gone viral? What are people saying? But it didn't really get traction. It kind of just... And then actually a relative of Davey messaged me and said, oh, he'll probably delete it in a few hours. This happens regularly.
Okay.
But he never deleted it.
Right, okay.
And
it became a big story, like.
it kind of came, and then a few other singers in the industry started messaging me going, hey, what's going on? Why is Davey coming after you?
Yeah.
And I felt the only way to do it was tackle it head on. So what I did then was I made this video pretending that I'm over the moon, that one of my idols mentioned me on his Facebook page, and I'm jumping on the bed delighted with life, and then on the screen comes up the tweet. Who are you, you rat?
I've seen it.
And then that had like 100,000 views by the next morning, and I think that kind of quashed anything that was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would know Davey, and he's a lovely guy, he's a good crack and all that. But like, look, whatever was the reason, but like being at the likes of a Go Racist, like you really are making a decision on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm going to interview this person and then wing it. And like you might not be till the next day. And you've 7 days in a row doing that.
Yeah. And genuinely no one from Tuam, not one person came up to me.
No.
And I think that's the beauty about the west of Ireland, particularly. We're well able to, like, I get so much abuse about Mayo.
Yeah. Of course. West of Ireland, it's a hobby nearly. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and you can't take it personally.
Yeah. No. So just before we let you go, we can't leave this without the man himself, Donal Burn.
Yeah.
Who, like, how would you describe him to someone that hadn't met him?
Donal is probably one of the kindest, most hardworking, craziest, spur of the moment people you'll ever meet. He's everything.
Yeah.
He's everything you would want a friend to be.
Yeah.
And he's everything you'd want to hang out with.
Yeah.
You know, you can call him. I could call him now and say, Donal, I'm stuck in Sligo. He'll be here in an hour. You could say, Donal, I need 20 euros. He'll lend you 20 euros and he'll never ask you for it ever again.
Yeah.
Or you can ring him and cry down the phone to him. Or, you know, he's just an amazing person. Yeah. But he doesn't give two shites. Like
my first few interactions are, I met him before at the comedy festival and then watched him online. And you just go, this fella's, you know, he's mad. Like he doesn't mind at all. He'll do anything. He seems like great crack.
He is.
But then I listened to his interview with you. I think it was his first one with you. And I was like, he's class.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I mean, he epitomizes that, what you just said. Like, he sounds like, and I don't know him very well at all, obviously, he's got your back. Watching his shows, he's got this passion for looking after our region, looking after the small businesses. With his homes, the BRB homes, what he does with them, it's like, why isn't this being done? Like, you know, I know he's a business making money, but like, I love that interview with him. And it just sold me like, oh yeah, he's great crack. He's a complete messer at times. But my God, the substance to him as well. Like,
yeah, so you read the Sun Princess chapter or see any of the content. You see Donal Burn, who's on a cruise for 4 or 5 days, but he's on holidays, right? Yeah. I was there working. I brought this guy with me and he's on holidays. He's there to have a good time. And I think people tune in going, God, he's a bit of a lunatic.
Yeah.
But he's a lunatic when he's off. He's somebody who works hard and plays hard. And he has 50 or 60 staff, a thriving business and bringing a business from strength to strength. So I think don't be fooled by the gallivanting you see at the weekends because you don't see the drive from Monday to Friday and what he has built.
He's actually interesting to follow because you get all the crack. And then he brings up loads of good stories. So people with problems with housing and that. And he doesn't, I love that he's so, sorry, I'm not going to, this is like a Donal Burn appreciation.
No.
But like, I didn't know him. And it was so interesting, like, you know what I mean?
And I'd often be saying to him, we should do this video or that video, or he'd be on the podcast and I'd be talking about his business. He'd be like, oh, stop talking about that now. I'm not here to talk about that.
Yeah. He wouldn't want to.
He's always playing himself down and playing his own business down, and he helps so many people.
It definitely comes across it that way.
Yeah.
So I mean,
to summarise, I suppose, he's no daw.
Definitely not.
He might come across as a bit of a daw in some of his videos.
He plays the part when he needs to.
Donal Burn, he's no daw.
No, that'll be the selling point of this video. What would you say out of all the things you've done? And I mean, there's a bookload of them there, and I mean there is ups and downs, but there's a bookload of great things. What was your favourite moment? It mightn't be even as big as we might think it is. What could you pick out of all the things you've been lucky enough to do? What was the best thing? What gave you the most buzz?
What gave me the most buzz? God, I don't know. Do you know where I probably was the most relaxed of the last live show in Enniscrone?
Oh, okay.
And that was because of a number of things, including Brian and Ray. And I'm not just saying it because Brian is sitting here.
He will mess up the filter on
not
this
because
camera.
Brian is flicking the keys himself here, but honestly, and I messaged Ray after the show as well and just said, I really enjoyed that live show, and it's probably I think it's about 10 now that I've done. That was one where I came off stage and I went, that was a great night. And I've never had that feeling before, because something might have went wrong, or something didn't quite work out the way you wanted it to work out, or you forgot to say something, and you go to bed thinking, oh, why did I say that, or why did I do that? That night I felt so much love from 300 people in the room. Everything went well. You had such a wonderful team around you. Even my brother said to me after the show, he goes, the team you have around you is just incredible. And I think we're on to something here.
Yeah.
We're on to something with the likes of Brian and Ray and Stuart and Kieran O'Malley and Cowboy and Rachel and Donal.
Yeah.
That team, and the one thing all those people have is it's not about them. No one is there for the limelight.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the best nights I've ever had.
I mean, there is a mighty crew there, and it's like I know you might be good friends with all of them, but there seems to be a good crew there, and there's a great chemistry and great crack, and like the interactions from one to the next,
and I think it's rare, Brendan. I think
absolutely.
it's rare. It's rare that you could get two of those people, and the fact that I have 10 of them around me, I don't take it for granted.
Yeah,
I really don't.
From Stuart Moyles, just open up the shows.
But Stuart would be in the corner of the room for 3 hours, and you wouldn't even know he was there.
Yeah.
And then he rocks out on stage, does old time rock and roll, and blows everybody away.
Yeah.
Then he goes off, and you don't see him again for the rest of the night. You don't even know
just
he's
does
in the
his
room.
thing, but I mean, it is, and as you said, that's nice to go. Not the big shows necessarily, but you can go, oh, that was just, I enjoyed that night, because there must be an awful lot of stress between the shows.
There was a lot of stress, but then you're surrounding yourself with people who go the extra mile. And I'm just going to give you one example here. As people were walking in on the Saturday night, Ray and Brian decided to put a speaker in the corridor playing James Bond music because it was a James Bond theme. And that just happened on the spur of the moment. But the difference that made to the whole night of people walking through, and that's by you surrounding yourself with good people who are there to support you. And that goes way further.
Yeah, and I feel I can't let this moment pass. This show would not be happening without Brian over there.
Yeah.
There isn't a hope that I built the set, does all the things perfectly, all the clips, the lovely edits. So yeah, it is great to have good people that you go, oh, I can just relax and do what I need to do.
Some people give me a hard time about all the thank yous, and I say the thank yous 2 or 3 times during a show, but I think they're so important.
Yeah, I think it's nice to recognise people when they do.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
What's next?
Sign the book everywhere. It'll be in Sligo, obviously. We better get that out of the way as well.
Yeah, it's going to be in Eason's in Sligo.
In the next coming days.
And another book.
Depends when this interview goes out, of course.
It's going to be in another bookshop in Sligo as well.
Okay.
Do you know the name of another bookshop in Sligo?
Lieber?
Yes.
Sorry. Lieber and Eason's.
Yes, it's going to be in Lieber and Eason's. And what's next? I'm going to take a break.
A break. So we're talking, it's nearly December now, 2024.
I'm hoping to take a good break in January.
Okay.
And reassess and slow down in 2025.
And I have 2 questions for you now.
Oh, God.
Okay. If you had to choose one, to get the job hosting the Late Late or Mayo winning the Sam?
Oh, I don't think. Mayo winning Sam.
It's a no
Mayo
brainer.
winning Sam, because I'd love to just see the carnage in Mayo for the 48 hours.
Oh God, 48 hours, 48 weeks.
I think Mayo was shut down.
I've no doubt. I'm a Galway man, and I've often said if they win the All-Ireland, I'm going to go down.
On
Despite
Monday,
all the rivalry and the crack.
I think on Monday there'll be no shops open, there'll be no schools open. It'll be like Christmas Day.
Can you imagine Donal Burn?
Oh, you won't see him for 6 months. You wouldn't see him for 6 months. He'd be gone. He'd be like Henry Sellers. He'd be jumping out through the window. How dare they do this to me? I made the GAA.
A last question.
I wouldn't take the Late Late Show if you paid me a million.
Well, I mean, that was probably now looking and talking
dollars.
and reading the book, probably a stupid question, because you definitely don't seem to be like, I love being in the limelight.
I think Patrick Keelty's doing a great job, and I think he gets such a hard time.
But
You can't win.
No. I think more than you've seen to your book, you've become that more thick-skinned. And there's moments you still probably second guess yourself, which is probably a good headspace to be in to a point, but not to go, okay, by such a point, I'm not going to think about that.
Yeah.
And Patrick must be doing the same, to
because
step into the shoes.
I really admired Ryan as well, and I think when you think about all the money that was wasted in RT, and that fella lost his job over 70 grand, like the price of flip flops.
Yeah.
That whole, when you actually break down that whole scandal that happened.
Step back after a time, you'll be like, what?
We're talking about this teeny little paycheck that he got.
Yeah.
And then when, you just can't win.
No.
You can't win doing that job.
Kiss, kill or marry?
Oh, no.
Cowboy, Garen or Donal Burn?
I'd marry Donal Burn.
Okay.
I'd kiss Garen and I'd probably kill Cowboy because he would drive you to drink.
And that's in the book. And I've seen you at the Sligo show. Like, he's a gem. Yeah. But like, it's just so funny. He would make you live on the edge.
You're always on edge with him. And he has never let me down.
I know.
Never.
He's such a lovely, quiet, calm, polite guy when you meet him backstage.
Another fella that has my back to the end, and he'll never let you down. But when you're on stage with him, he keeps you on your toes.
Oh, I seen you at the back of the room. You're going, what's it going to be?
You're just like...
And the story of the watch, I won't tell you when, where, the background of it, the watch at the Galway races.
Yeah.
I mean, if people need to see what it's like behind the scenes of, they must have loads of money and all this. The
stop.
watch at the Galway races, the auction is unreal.
Yeah.
Alan, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Brendan. I appreciate it.
Look, I dealt with you at the comedy festival. I know you through the Kendi and Rainbow, the lads of podcast. You, like, from getting to know you, and I can't pretend I know you very well. Obviously, I know you a lot more with this book. You seem to be such a lovely, genuine, hard-working person that probably is too nice. You probably need to be a bit more of an asshole at times, and for your own, to avoid your own detriment. I mean, you were beyond embarrassingly polite and nice and helpful with the comedy festival. You've dealt with difficult acts, venues, agencies. I've dealt with it. You couldn't have been more. And like, you always come back with gifts and thank yous, and so I suppose it's nice to kind of have a lovely chat with you, hear more about your story. Thanks for coming on to our show here down in Sligo.
Thank you.
And all the best with the book. And I know when people come on a show with a book, the presenter's never going to say, it wasn't great. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I said, like, you probably get it, people, sure, what are you writing a book for? Like,
yeah.
You know, but like, it's a great story. There's loads of old retro memories. There's lovely stories about your family. There's ups and downs. And it's a great background insight to, and I see the back of the book, the audience is obviously in the TF, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All those people that look up at you on the stage, and maybe if they read this book, they might have a whole different like appreciation for what you do. Like, so
yeah, I guess it's just to try and tell people that it's never too late to try something different.
Try something, yeah.
You know,
and then you're the epitome of that from one thing to another. But you just enjoy the challenge, it seems, as well.
Well, I don't know.
You enjoy putting yourself in. As someone said to me, let's make a bit of chaos for ourselves.
It's a bit like Father Ted. Maybe I like the misery.
Well, definitely. Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brendan.
And the very best book, it's in our local bookshops here in Sligo and everywhere around Ireland. And I'm sure Alan Clarke, is it .com?
It's .com. Alan Clarke.
All your social media is easily found.
.com.
And there are other Alan Clarke books as we found. They're not them.
You told me that, actually.
I sent it to you. Yeah. So go into your bookshop, go and get the book. Genuinely, it's a great read. Thanks to Alan for coming down. Thanks to Brian behind the cameras. Thanks to the team here at the ATU for looking after us. And we have to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Pet Stop Discount Warehouse. And we mentioned it already, but thanks to EJ's who kitted me out on their lovely new €299 deal. Go and check it out on their social media. We'll see you all again next time.
The Sligo Show is produced by Pixel Productions and hosted by Brendan Tierney. If you need video for your business or live event or would like to appear on the show, send us a message today.
This show is in partnership with ATU Sligo Innovation Centre, the hub of innovation and commercial enterprise for startups, industry, and academia.
So if you liked what you just seen, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel here. We've loads of great interviews from a load of really interesting people over the series. And if you're on social media, which I'm sure loads of you are, we are on Instagram and Facebook, so give us a follow there.